I am so sorry, Commanders fans. Nick has picked the Commanders to win the NFC East, and I'm not so sure that bought us well. Uh, Last year, he had the Eagles missing the playoffs, and they ended up obviously winning the Super Bowl, and he had the Cowboys winning the division, and the Cowboys did not win the division. So we'll have to see how that ages. We'll have to see. But all jokes aside, um, no, I mean, I think this division will very much be competitive. Uh, I'm very, very, very high on both the Commanders and the Eagles, just like I was last year. And I'm not sure if you guys know this, but that ended up being correct. They both went to the NFC Championship game. And so I I think it's fair to say that the Eagles have the head start there, but I don't think anything is given. I think everything is earned. And I always talk about this how I only use the previous season. The previous season only matters so much to me. And in a lot of ways I'll make like the strong claimant claim where I'll say like it doesn't matter to me at all. And what I mean by that is like just because the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year does not mean that they automatically deserve to be the front runner to win the division, right? So it's not as binary as I kind of make it out to be when I make some of those statements, but I it's you guys understand ideally what I'm saying here. And just because the Commanders got to the NFC Championship game last year doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to even be as competitive as as it's being set up right here now. Um Preseason predictions honestly always make me uncomfortable. They actually really do. Um I I don't enjoy them very much, and but especially when we're literally like what a little over a week from actual gameplay here. So but I think at the very least when I see a prediction like this, it just signals to me that it's over finally, right? The Commanders being in a cave of darkness, to be forgotten, to be ignored, to be rejected, to be denied. It's over. It's done. You made it through to the other side right now. And you have a quarterback, you have a coach, you have a roster that can give you optimism for years to come right now. And signing Terry McLaurin, I think, was huge. I've already posted the video unpacking that whole thing with NFL Live and and how much that matters. So I'm not going to rehash that whole thing right now. I very much do believe that the Eagles are going to be extremely competitive and a great team, but um, I this was a take that I actually had that I never really got the opportunity to share it. Where looking at it through the lens of both the Eagles and the Commanders, that it's actually a huge inconvenience for them that you have such a great team and great quarterback play in the same division together. That historically, when you look at these teams that go on awesome, amazing runs, most recently the Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs, you really get to take advantage of a pretty average to below average division. And even if you still have to face like other great quarterbacks in the conference, it's still a little bit messy. Like the Rams and Sean McVay. Rams got Matthew Stafford, and that's great, but they got the older, more injured now Matthew Stafford, and it's like that's a luxury for the Commanders and the Eagles to have to deal with that. If Matthew Stafford was 28 years old and he was with Sean McVay, like that changes everything tremendously. Uh, the Eagles for years having to go up against Daniel Jones and insert whatever coach quarterback you want for the Washington Commanders, like that's a massive luxury. Dak Prescott's a pretty good quarterback, right? You know, probably better than even I give him credit for, but the Cowboys have been such a circus with Jerry Jones. It's a massive luxury to have. Uh, Having Jason Garrett as the coach for years and years and years is like it's like great. Kudos. Oh, you have a pretty good roster, but you're unwilling to take a big swing and like make a move for like a Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. Like perfect that, thank you, says Eagles fans, and now Commanders fans. And so it's like you get to really benefit off of that. The Tua being injured and the Jets being just the Jets, and the Patriots being an absolute mess. Ever since Tom Brady, it would have been a massive inconvenience for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots if Josh Allen was in the NFL, was with the Buffalo Bills during that run. I'm not saying that it would have changed everything and now the Patriots dynasty doesn't happen, but it changes everything. I mean, it really does. And so it is a massive inconvenience to both these teams that you have the NFC champion team, you know, in your division, the NFC championship game contender in your own division. That by definition is pretty annoying if you're looking at it from either lens, the Commander lens or the Eagles lens. And I know both fan bases as I've gotten to know them quite well over these last couple of, however many months, that they're both very confident and passionate about their own franchise and their own quarterback and their own unit and as they should. Um, but it's funny because going into the playoffs, and this ended up being really, really correct. I was like, it's actually really great that the Commanders and the Eagles, it's set up in a way where in order for them to face each other, it would have to be the NFC championship game. I think ideally that'll be smoother for both teams, and both teams found themselves in the NFC championship game. So, it worked well, right? It worked well, especially for the Commanders, because obviously that was when they officially lost. And you can make the argument that it mattered less for the Eagles since they obviously beat everyone and won the Super Bowl. But I think that take aged pretty well. And so, yeah, like it's a bit of a nuisance here. Um, it's a major luxury to have to go up against a mess of a team with Daniel Jones rather than the Philadelphia Eagles. Uh, and so in order to try to pick this division, I don't know. I really don't. I I lean towards the Eagles, but I have to be very consistent where I am a huge believer in coaches. And I'm like, I need to see how this new offensive coordinator works with the Philadelphia Eagles. I I can't predict that. No one could. No one could. So I think if he's been coordinating or was doing something else, was coaching somewhere else and you could really use it. But like, no, I I have no strong sense of how great or bad or average of a play caller this offensive coordinator will be with the Philadelphia Eagles. I got no idea. And I've had the same takes with all other coordinators that I don't know and other coordinators that I do believe in. I I think that they'll have a more, their quarterback or their team will have a lot more success. Most recently, like Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, and my one question mark now is like the Detroit Lions. Like I don't know how great the new OC is going to be for the Lions, and I'm confident in how great Ben Johnson is, and you lost Ben Johnson. So, like, I don't know. I think Kel Moore was a really, really good to great coordinator, but like, I don't think he was like the GOAT coordinator. He's not Ben Johnson in my eyes. So it's just like, it's not maybe as much of a loss, but you still need a gain for it from a coordinating standpoint. And it's my same take with the Commanders, where I'm like, Cliff Kingsbury is an awesome coordinator, and I believe in him, which is why I thought Jane Daniels and the Commanders were going to be so successful, which is why I also say, enjoy it while it lasts. Get as much as you can right now, because Cliff Kingsbury will leave. For all you know, he's going to be the head coach of the New York Giants or the Dallas Cowboys soon. I mean, that's a real thing that could happen, and it will be a legitimate loss for Jane Daniels and the Commanders. So, um, I have to see how that shapes up for the Eagles. Uh, I have the utmost confidence in Fangio and Sirianni keeping that team together and the roster itself, but it's like I got to see this all connect. I got to see how this all uh, shapes up. And, by the same token, I believe in the continuity of Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels and them boosting up that offense. And I believe in Dan Quinn, although they don't necessarily have the raw material, to be as great of a defense as I know Dan Quinn can build and run. But I do believe that even if there's technically, if you look at this team and your biggest question marks are around the defense, I still look at it through the lens of I believe Dan Quinn is too good of a coach for them to not at least continue to be moving in the right direction. That if this team, and I don't remember the exact number, so these are made up, if they were on average giving up 25 points a game last year, that this year, at the very least, it's not going to be 28 unless you get decimated by injuries, but you're not going to go backwards, and 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 most likely you gave up 25 points per game last year and now it's 24-23. Are you able to make the jump and go to 19 now? Maybe if you really hit home runs on those draft picks and they're able to absolutely hit the ground running, definitely possible. But again, I'm more confident in at least not going backwards or even just staying the same, right? Even just what it was. Last year, I imagine at the very least it will be better, which then bodes well tremendously from my viewpoint for the Washington Commanders. And I just have zero concerns. I hate myself for even having to bring it up or saying it, but like zero concerns for the sophomore slump with Jane Daniels and blah 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 blah. Um so um yeah, man, I'm excited to see what the Commanders and the Eagles look like and how they contend throughout the year for the division. I think both teams honestly have tremendous momentum, and both teams are going to feel incredibly confident, and both teams have proven that they belong. Again, obviously both NFC Championship contending teams, and obviously the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. But with what comes winning the Super Bowl is, um, you can't afford to keep all the players. So, of course, you're going to lose some players. You lose your coordinator, right? So you lack some of that continuity. Um, you know, a lot of the things that made you great in a year's past or something like that, you're hoping that you can recapture. I'm not confident that Saquon Barkley is just going to be able to rush for 2,000 plus yards again. It's like I don't think that Saquon Barkley necessarily takes a back seat, but do I believe that he can just have back-to-back all-time great seasons? It's like that's asking a lot, that's asking a lot. So, and also the Eagles, health is always a question mark. But same thing with the Commanders, right? You have a couple older players that have been kind of banged up a little bit, like Adbo. Zach Ertz is certainly not, young by any stretch of the imagination, and so, kind of just a wait and see. And Jane Daniels got banged up last year as well. So I wonder also if part of this, who ends up winning a division is just like who's the healthiest and whose coaching staff holds it together the best. If there's any type of liability with the offensive coordinator with the Eagles, the Commanders are good enough to pounce on that, I believe. And if any of these teams are dealing with players who are banged up, like Debo's gone, Terry McLaurin's gone, AJ's G, whatever it may be, I think both of these teams will be great enough where it's like, yep, that's all we need. All we need is the tiniest little edge. We snap our fingers and we got this thing cooking. But to what degrees? That all depends. We got to wait and see for that one. can't predict everything in August. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders winning the NFC East? And do you think it bodes well that Nick Wright has picked them to win the NFC East, or does that make you a little bit more nervous? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.